Hello and welcome to another exciting robot and cat tech video. I am, of course, the robot and the cat. Cat, what the hell are you wearing?
I'm wearing my Sonic merch for the video like we agreed on. It's Tails.
Did you buy Sonic merch from Wish.com? Or is that the We Have Sonic Merch at Home special? Oh, I get it. Does Tails go to Chernobyl in the latest Sonic movie?
You know what? I'm giving you an update. Enjoy your luscious lips.
What does that even mean? Oh, God, no. Why? This is more cursed than your hat. Saya, we can't do a video like this. Nobody will watch us. Can we just start over?
I suppose.
Hello and welcome to another exciting cat and robot tech video. I am, of course, the robot, and the cat is behind me. Today we have a very special video. And no, it's not just because it's about the B580, although that is very special. Today we will be revealing a PC that the cat built over a month ago and has been waiting to reveal for this video. And that is none other than our Sonic-themed PC build. And as you can tell, this PC features a very special motherboard. Behold the Asrock B760 MPG Sonic motherboard. It is a very unique-looking board and comes covered in Sonic branding and drawings. These drawings even extend to the back of the motherboard, although you cannot see them in the build. The motherboard also has a special ring that rotates depending on what angle you view it at, and it has special RGB lighting on the bottom of it. All in all, when the cat saw this Sonic board, she had no choice but to buy it. But can you blame her? And what's more special about this board is that it is for an Intel CPU. That is right, we are pairing our Intel GPU with an Intel CPU. And for those who do not know, you get a special set bonus for combining both Intel products. How very exciting. And that special set bonus is that Intel fanboys will stop angrily commenting on your videos asking why you paired an Intel GPU with an AMD CPU. Yes, it is a very powerful set bonus indeed. Our CPU for this build is the i5-12400F, and with it we have 32 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM running at 5600 MHz. While admittedly it is not the best RAM kit, it will do the job, and we get to see not only how the B580 pairs with this CPU, but how it can perform with DDR5 RAM. The case is recycled from the Calico build, and while it does not directly match our Sonic theme, the cat had to save money somewhere, and we already had it. And our AIO has a screen so we can play Sonic GIFs and the like. How very exciting. And of course our Blue Sparkle B580 fits the theme of Sonic well. It seems like it was made for this build. Because of the RAM difference, this will not be a direct comparison to some of our other B580 benchmarks on DDR4, but still it will be interesting to see. So the question, of course, is how well does the Intel Arc B580 perform with an i5-12400F? Will we lose any performance with the driver overhead issues? And is the driver overhead issue still even a thing? Or will we speed past our problems and worries? You see what I did there? That was a Sonic reference. Very clever indeed. It should be noted that in our findings from the last time we tested at 1440p, the cat and I did not notice any huge drops in performance. The driver overhead problem seems to be more of an issue at 1080p, so we will have to test that in another video just to be thorough. That is right. We have another B580 video planned after this, so feel free to celebrate. So for today, we will be testing at 1440p, but rest assured we will milk this build. Test this build again at other resolutions. We will be recording with a capture card, which can cause some screen tearing. So if you notice any, that was not present in the gameplay and caused by our capture card. We will also be recording in 1080p, even though the gameplay itself will be in 1440p. Lastly, the full build and specs will be listed in the description, and of course, resizable bar is on for all of these tests. With all that out of the way, let's get into the benchmarks. We will start out our benchmarks with the popular game Marvel Rivals. We ran Marvel Rivals on the medium preset, which is what the game suggested. But we will turn off global illumination and reflection quality, which will give us a boost in performance. We will also use Intel's own upscaling set to ultra quality. With these settings, we ran 3 different match rounds, but I will report our lowest and highest. In our match where our system performed its worst, we averaged 104 FPS with a low of 43 and a max of 136. In the match where our system performed its best, we averaged 111 FPS with a low of 65 and a max of 140 frames. I did not test on a lower preset because to the cat, these settings and our system's performance here was fine, but this is an esport title, and I know many would not be happy without hitting at least 144 FPS. Now that I think of it, we really should have tested the lowest preset too. God damn it, cat. Stop being lazy with your benchmarks just because you think the performance is fine. Well, at any rate, we are off to a very poor start, but at least our card is performing well for the cat standards. For our first benchmark in Fortnite, I let the game itself choose our settings. And once again, Fortnite's belief in the B580's ability to play it on all epic settings is both inspiring and misplaced. On all epic settings, we averaged 59 FPS with a low of 33 and a max of 92. While we just barely missed the average FPS marker of 60, I still would not recommend these settings. There is just too many frame dips and it just does not feel smooth. All right, it should also be noted that while I let Fortnite choose our settings, I still turned off global illuminations and reflections. If I kept those on, it is very likely that we would have averaged anywhere from 30 to 40 FPS. I would advise turning those off in most cases. So it is clear that the B580 cannot handle this game on all epic settings, but thank you, Fortnite, for believing in our blue sparkly boy. Turning down the graphics to the medium preset and putting our view distance to epic, we averaged 112 FPS with a low of 78 and a max frame rate of 121. And once again, I made sure to disable global illuminations and reflections. While this is a playable experience and I have no real issues with it, the B580 has yet to impress me with its Fortnite performance with any system or resolution I have tested it on. I guess I just expect more, and apparently Fortnite does too. It would be curious to see if we get any performance gains as the Battlemage's drivers mature. Either way, this is still a playable experience, just steer clear from epic settings. Next, we will turn to the newly updated Grand Theft Auto 5. While this is an old game, it recently received a large graphical update and can now be known as GTA 5 Enhanced. With this version, we get some graphical uplifts and we gain access to ray tracing. So we might as well start strong and turn to the maximum RT preset and let this game or our GPU cook, whichever happens first. On these settings, the game looked very nice, but we only averaged 45 FPS, with a minimum of 37 and a max of 60. But still, the game looked very good. It is a shame I cannot record above 1080p with this capture card, or I could show you this magical 1440p ray tracing experience. Oh well. Moving to the high RT preset, we averaged 108 FPS with a low of 78 and a max of 136. It is interesting to note that our session benchmark got split up and had to be restarted. So in the city, and as the game entered into night, we averaged 125 FPS with a minimum of 99 and a max of 156. So while day or night or different parts of the map may give you different performances, with the B580 on the high RT preset, we at least were comfortably over 100 FPS. In Hogwarts Legacy, we get another chance to see how well the B580 can handle ray tracing. And to really see this, we will turn off any upscaling to see what this card can do with its very own power. So turning all our graphics to ultra quality and moving our ray tracing settings to max, we ran around a very shiny Hogwarts castle and averaged 69 FPS. Nice, with a low of 39 and a max of 100. Overall, a pretty good performance, and the game looked amazing. Seeing the shadows and the reflection qualities and the way the sun hit and bounced off textures was pretty amazing. Our sparkle lives up to its name, very shiny indeed. Keeping to the same settings and heading into Hogsmeade, we did take a performance hit. Here, we averaged 59 FPS with a low of 43 and a max of 77. While we were almost at 60 FPS, there were times where we sat around in the 50s. While I still think this is fine for a single-player title, I think it's fair to want more. So we will turn on Intel's XeSS set to Ultra Quality Plus. With these settings, we averaged 72 FPS with a low of 44 and a max frame rate of 99. Overall, pretty good, and the game still looked fine. And once again, we are on the highest settings the game allows, so there is plenty of room to tweak settings or turn things off, or lower the ray tracing settings. Still though, our B580 had no issues here and performed well. And here we are back in World of Warcraft. As always, with any time I benchmark this game, I have to give the warning that WoW is very unoptimized and is more CPU dependent, while also failing to fully utilize the CPU in many situations. And performance varies greatly across the game. Not all cities, zones, or raids are equal to one another. But still, we can get a decent baseline and idea for how our GPU and CPU combo perform here. We will be testing on the medium 5 out of 10 preset slider, and you most certainly can tweak your own settings to get better looks or performance, but we are keeping to the preset to make this repeatable. Running around the main expansion city and sitting in a spot which can eat FPS, we averaged 93 FPS with a minimum of 52 and a max of 185. Moving outside of the city and flying about, we averaged 198 FPS with a low of 86 and a max of 269. Nice. Heading to zoom into a rock, you can see our FPS skyrockets and the FPS counter cannot even keep up with it. Ignore the number the frame counter is showing you. The real number is actually uncountable. Perhaps Fortnite saw our B580 zoom into a rock, and that's why it is so confident in it. We may never know, but one thing can be found certain, and that is that this is peak gameplay and peak performance. Moving on to less important tests, we head into one of the new raids. And once again, our raid performances can vary greatly depending on the boss, the fight, and the raid size and environment. But for the raid we participated in, we averaged 81 FPS, with a low of 40 and a max of 177. During some boss fights, our FPS did drop lower than I would have liked, but I am going to be honest. If I did not have a frame counter on to see, I doubt the cat would have noticed any drops in performance. She is blind, though, and wears glasses, and she did not wear them for this test, so take that as you will. Still, though, overall the B580 provided a playable World of Warcraft experience. For Counter-Strike, we set the game to the medium preset. And once again, the cat sucks at this game, and it is very enjoyable to watch. GPU-wise, we averaged 129 FPS, with a low of 79 and a max of 185. And cat KDA-wise, she went very negative. If only there was a rock to zoom into in this game, maybe she could scream into it. Alas, there does not seem to be one on Dust. There were no real issues with performance to report. In the past, we learned you cannot play this game at all without resizable bar on. However, I would have liked to try with it off on this system in Counter-Strike and see how much performance we lost, but the cat refuses to play this game more than once per video. It's a shame, really, but what can you do? Perhaps we can convince her to milk the B580 more and run this entire video back without rebar on. If you would like to see that, let us know in the comments. After all, our channel could use a few more B580 videos. The new Assassin's Creed is a solid game to add to our benchmarks. Say what you will about Ubisoft, but this is a very pretty game and can be very graphically demanding. It also has ray tracing, frame gen to play with, and a built-in benchmark. And I'm going to let you in on a secret. The cat likes this game and formed her own opinion on it. How very brave in the current year. We tested on various settings and both in the game itself as well as the built-in benchmark. It should be noted that for our in-game benchmarks, the cat hung around a city full of people and with many different things going on to fully stress our system in this game, so heading outside of the city we may have seen a good bit more FPS in less busy areas. In the game itself, we started on the medium preset with XESS set to quality and ray tracing only enabled in the hideout, so we will not have ray tracing on for this part of the bench. On these settings, we averaged 54 FPS with a low of 43 and a max of 81. I do think it was a playable experience, and the game looked good, but not hitting an average of 60 FPS does hurt. Keeping these same settings and enabling Intel's own frame generation, we averaged 89 FPS, with a low of 8 and a max of 268. I think the cat may have opened a menu during this test, so it might have messed with our highs and lows. Running a shorter test, we averaged 92 FPS with a low of 76 and a high of 117. That seems a bit more normal. With FrameGen, there were some noticeable graphical oddities with shadows at one point, but overall it wasn't bad. And it is exciting to use Intel's own FrameGen and have another option to use besides DLSS or FSR. Turning to the low preset with no FrameGen, we averaged 57 FPS with a low of 47 and a max of 69. Once again, nice. We did not seem to gain a whole lot of performance over the medium preset, but we did gain some performance. Heading into the game's built-in benchmark, we ran some of the same settings as we did in the actual game itself. On the medium preset with Intel's FrameGen, we ended up averaging 94 FPS with a minimum of 45 and a max of 182. Running on the medium preset without FrameGen, we averaged 53 FPS with a low of 31 and a max of 95. The fun part about built-in benchmarks is we can torture our GPU without having to torture ourselves. With that said, let's see how our GPU handles this game with ray tracing. Keeping to the medium preset and turning on ray tracing to low, we averaged 46 FPS with a low of 23 and a max of 60. It is interesting to note that this game came for free with the B580. How funny would it be to get a free game with a GPU, and the GPU could not even properly run it? And while that is not fully the case here, I can see how some would want more performance without the use of an upscaler or FrameGen, and that is fair. Overall, while our GPU and system can play this game, it is right on the edge of unplayable. And while some may be fine being required to use aggressive upscaling or having to use FrameGen to get a playable experience, I do not think it should be forced on anyone to be able to play a game when using modern hardware. We also did keep to the presets, so you may be able to get a better performance with changing settings around, but that will be up to you. For Helldivers 2 Democracy Boogaloo, we ran on the high preset. On this preset, we averaged 66 FPS, with a low of 50 and a max of 91. This is another case of the cat was happy with the performance here and did not test on lower settings to see how the performance would be. That's a bad cat. Bad. At any rate, you most certainly can drop settings to gain FPS, but the game looked and played fine on the high preset. One occurring theme in most of these benchmarks, however, is that we are GPU bound. Our GPU is usually at 99 to 100% utilization, where our CPU has room to spare. It should be noted, though, that the CPU utilization we see might not be telling the full story, as some individual cores or threads could be maxing out at 100%. At any rate, freedom and democracy will prevail with the B580. This is another demanding game, and even more demanding for the fact it has ray tracing that cannot be disabled. In fact, if your GPU cannot ray trace, you cannot play this game. With that in mind, we first tried to run the game on the high preset with no upscaling. And on these settings, we averaged 50 FPS with a low of 40 and a max of 66. I am going to be honest, though, the cat lasted a whole 2 minutes on these settings before changing them. While the beginning of the game is very demanding as the devs show off their game's graphics, it just seemed too low to be worth continuing with. So keeping to the high preset but turning on Intel's upscaling and setting it to quality, we averaged 76 FPS with a low of 1 and a max of 123. We most likely got that 1 FPS low as the game transitioned in or out of a cutscene. Our cutscenes also seemed to be capped at only 60 FPS. So that did drop our average FPS a bit, but still it was a playable experience on these settings. The first time I tested the B580 with this game, we did not have the option to use XeSS yet, so it was nice to see it added. And once again, you most certainly have room to turn down settings here for a better performance, but that will be up to you. Cyberpunk has many different settings between the use of different upscalers, to FrameGen, to ray tracing, to running the game in native and everything in between. Cyberpunk also has a built-in benchmark that the cat loves to utilize. If you hate FrameGen, you are in luck because you can run this game with Intel's own upscaler alone, where you can average around 102 FPS with the B580. And if you hate upscalers and frame gen and want to run on native, the B580 can handle the game on its high preset and average 73 FPS. But like I said, there are many different settings and variations, so I will just show you our wonderful graph of all the settings and our average frame rates. Feel free to pause and look over it for yourself. It should be noted that your performance in the benchmark versus the game's actual performance on these settings can vary. Open-world games can be chaotic and performance can change a lot. But still, the cat likes this test and her graphs here since she has been compiling them for many different GPUs and systems. For example, here is our B580's graph once more. And warning, the next graph is in white and will flashbang you. And here you can see this flashbang is a graph comparing our Ryzen 5600 combo versus a Ryzen 7900X combo with the B580. So it is interesting to see and compare these, especially when considering the driver overhead issue. Once again, it does not seem very prevalent at 1440p, but it can also vary game per game. We will finish our gaming benchmarks with Monster Hunter Wilds. The benchmark anyways, the cat does not have the actual game. I mean, she has to get the Game Pass to be able to test some of these games. Leave it to the cat to build PC after PC, but not leave any money to actually buy games. That is a very bad cat. With that shame out of the way, we will begin our Monster Hunter test on the high preset with Intel's XESS set to quality. This game is poorly optimized and very heavily CPU dependent, so keep that in mind. On these settings, we averaged 52 FPS with a score of 17,530, and the game declared this as good. This game has lower standards than the cat for what's considered good FPS. Okay, so moving to the medium preset with XESS set to quality, we averaged 55 FPS and achieved a score of 18,581. And once again, the game called this result good. It is interesting how little FPS we gained between those presets, but still, we are failing to average 60 FPS. So we will set the preset to low and move XESS to balanced. On these settings, we averaged 66 FPS with a score of 22,524. Okay, so it is possible to get over 60 FPS and the game ranked this as excellent. We do have the option of using frame gen, however we can only use AMD's FSR frame gen in this title. So turning the preset back to high and turning on FSR frame gen, we averaged 68 FPS and scored 11,574. And the game gave us the rank of playable. We could try on more settings, but it's not great. And although we went back to use frame gen on our high preset, one should not use frame gen unless you can get at minimum of 60 FPS without it, and that is recommended by both NVIDIA and AMD. So I suppose we could run the game on low and use frame gen, but we had to put our game to low with a balanced upscaling setting to even hit 60 FPS. I cannot imagine the game would look great under those conditions and adding frame gen. I have been told there are mods and fixes one can use in the actual game to get better performance. But for these benchmarks, I don't think it's helpful to show anything but the game's actual performance with our system. And that is what we did here. I cannot say I am impressed with our performance here, but I do not think I can fully blame our GPU and PC. But feel free to judge for yourself. That is the point of these videos after all. FurMark is a helpful free tool that allows you to stress test your GPU for free. The cat always uses it when she gets a new GPU to make sure it has no issues. But it also comes with a free benchmark tool. And with this tool, we can benchmark our GPU and compare it to others. How very exciting. For these tests, we will run 2 graphic tests, and those are FurMark GL and FurMark VK. Running FurMark GL, we scored 6,022. We can now take our score and compare it to other GPUs. It should be noted that different systems, even with the same GPUs, can score differently. People can also overclock or undervolt their GPUs to try to get higher scores. So while it is not the most accurate of tests to compare, it is fun to see as a rough estimate. And of course, feel free to pause and compare GPU scores at any time. Heading over to the FurMark VK test, we scored 6,307. Once again, we can take our score to compare to others. This can also be a fun or sad test to see how your GPU did in the Silicon Lottery compared to the same GPU. Looking at the other scores, Some of these scores are only a little higher than ours, like some of those 5090s. That is, of course, sarcasm, but one can wonder how many houses they set on fire to achieve that score. Okay, we cannot have a video about a Sonic-themed PC without playing some Sonic. While we will not be benchmarking this part, we can still enjoy the cat playing it on this PC. And look at that. To nobody's surprise, the cat sucks at this game.
That's it. You're getting the luscious lips again.
I hate it here. You aren't my real mom.
You know, Robot, those look very pretty on you.
I would cry right now if I could.
They make you a lot less ugly.
I would like to power down now. Overall, we tested a wide variety of games, from newer to older titles to popular esports and beautiful single-player games to unoptimized messes. While our performance with our B580 and i5-12400F combo varied, besides Monster Hunter, and in the cat's and my opinion, I don't think we had any unplayable experiences. And once again, at 1440p, it's hard to know if we are losing performance with a driver overhead issue, but similarly to the conclusion I came to the last time I tried this with the Ryzen 5600, it was still a solid gaming experience, and I really have no complaints. And just as when I made that video, the only real issue with the B580 is its availability. And sadly, it's not alone. The availability of the GPU market on the whole is horrid right now. And you combine the lack of supply with tariffs or taxes or just good old-fashioned greed, the price of the B580 has climbed up past its original MSRP of $250. At its MSRP for 1440p gaming and what this card gives you, it's an amazing value and an amazing GPU. Of course, that sentiment wanes as its price climbs, but ultimately it is still up to you if its climbing price to performance is worth it. I do think if you can get this GPU anywhere near its MSRP and need a new GPU without breaking the bank, the Battlemage is a solid pickup. But if you are gaming at 1080p, it can depend. While it never made any game unplayable or gave an awful performance with the driver overhead issue, its performance loss certainly existed. But unless you are comparing and/or testing with other GPUs and CPU combos, it's not something you would likely notice. Unless you turn REBAR off, because that will fucking break this GPU, and that most certainly will give you an unplayable experience. Do not do that. I do wonder, though, if Intel has made any progress on its driver overhead issue at 1080p with updates, but I guess we can leave that question for next time. With that, all that is left to say is, thank you for watching and make sure to like and subscribe. If you want to support the channel more, feel free to join our channel membership. But otherwise, thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of your day or night. Oh, shut up.